Hello, my name is Chadomir Nestorovic. I'm a professor at the ESSEC Business School in Singapore, and today we are going to talk about the secrets of the Singaporean success. The Singaporean story is unique because there is no other country in the world which has succeeded in a so short span of time to go from the third world country to the first world country. And many countries in the world would like to repeat this success. So we are going to look at the success through three directions. The first one will focus on the economic success, that is the GDP per capita. The second one will be devoted to education, and in that case we look at the rankings. And the last one will be home ownership, where Singapore is also one of the best in the world. The economic success is a tremendous one because there is no other country in the world which has passed from, let's say, $500 GDP per capita, as they used to have before they have been separated from Malaysia, up to more than $80,000 per head today. No other in the country has succeeded this. As far as education is concerned, Singapore is deemed to have one of the best education systems in the world if we look at the rankings. The first ranking is looking at the PISA test, and these PISA tests are showing in categories such as reading, such as physics, such as mathematics, where Singapore is the best in the world. The second one is looking at the end of the high school, that is the IB test, and the IB test also, when we are looking at the results, Singapore is leading the world in terms of the perfect scores that we have, and of course here in Asia. And concerning the third one, it is focusing on the higher education, and in that case as well, even if the Singaporean universities are young, they are now entering in the top league of the universities. The latest one from 2015 is showing that the two universities from Singapore, NUS and NTU, are respectively on the 12th and on the 13th place. Concerning home ownership, Singapore has the highest home ownership in the world because more than 90% of Singaporean population is the owner of the homes they are living in. And even if we consider that the 20% poorest population in Singapore, they also own, in more than 90% of cases, their own homes. There is no other country in the world where we have so high home ownership rate. So what are the reasons of the Singaporean success? If we ask the Singaporeans, they will usually talk about three origins for the success. The first one being meritocracy, the second one is pragmatism, and the third one is honesty. The first one, meritocracy, means that the country is picking the best of its talents in order to run the country. The second one, which is pragmatism, means that they are not hesitating to look around and to benchmark on the other countries in order to reproduce what are the best practices. And the last one, honesty, means that they are looking at the lowest corruption possible in the country, permitting all people to have equal opportunities. Meritocracy provides a successful way of combining rewards and incentives with competitiveness and equality of opportunity. So this is why it is considered to be the core pillar of the Singaporean success, because from the beginning of the independent state in 1965, the emphasis was put on the fact that they need the best talents to run the country. So this meritocracy is something which has been legitimizing the Singaporean politics. It is the pillar of the Singaporean society, and it is also a principle of governance within the country, not only for the public sector, but also for the private sector. In order to have a meritocracy which works, we have to quantify it. And one of the ways how to quantify meritocracy is to reward the hard work, and we also have to quantify the hard work, usually through education. So this is why the tutors in Singapore are extremely rewarded and very often very well paid, because tuition centers and private tutors are a basic element of the life in Singapore. The third pillar of the Singaporean success is pragmatism. And the story of pragmatism is very clear when we talk about the language issue in Singapore. Singapore is a diverse society, so we have several languages. However, the government, since independence, has put the emphasis on two languages, on English on one side and Mandarin on the other side. The emphasis on English is quite clear because in the globalization society that we live today, English is a necessity. So when the founding father, Lee Kuan Yew, was talking about the English language, he was saying that even if he was Chinese, there is no future for the Chinese language in Singapore. So this is why they have launched a series of different campaigns in order to teach the correct English to the Singaporean population. The second language that they were putting the emphasis on is Mandarin. At that time, at the moment of independence, the Chinese population in Singapore was speaking a series of different dialects, such as the Hokkien, the Teochew, or the Hakka. And in order to homogenize all this population, there was decided to launch Mandarin as a cohesive language for all this population. So this is why also at that time they have launched campaigns in order to avoid speaking dialects but to put the emphasis on Mandarin. The last reason of the Singaporean success is honesty. Maybe it is the most difficult part to perform because we have to monitor not only the public officials but also the private officials in the country. This is why Singapore has started to pay very well the public officials, and especially the first of them, that is the Prime Minister. So when we look at the salaries that the main leaders in the world are earning, usually Singapore is on the first place. Furthermore, if we refer to Transparency International, which publishes every year the Corruption Perceptions Index, Singapore is always in the top 10 in the world, and especially it is the first one in Asia. So it means that corruption is extremely low, if not non-existent in the country, and it is a tremendous success when we look at the situation in Asia. The success story has also its dark side, and many Singaporeans are criticizing the situation in Singapore, especially meritocracy, because they believe that the meritocracy concept that we have in the country is entrenching the social mobility on one side, that it is promoting a very narrow idea of merit and success on the other side, and that it is giving way to an increasingly self-regarding elite in the country. And one of the ways how they are looking at the fight between meritocracy on one side and positive discrimination on the other side is the latest reserved election that we had in Singapore, when the country has decided that the election will be reserved for one community, in that case the Malay community. So it means that the critics are saying that the positive discrimination is getting more momentum than meritocracy. The Singaporean model has shown that it is possible to achieve tremendous success based on providing equality of opportunity for all. So it will be wrong to believe that equalization will lead to the same results, but providing the same environment which is focusing on equal opportunity for all, is something which has been proven to be successful in Singapore. It doesn't mean that it can be successful in some other environments, but this is what is done in the country, and everything is based on the definition of success. Is the definition of success something which is quantifiable? And in that case, we are looking at the GDP per capita and at the education test. From this point of view, the Singaporean story is definitely a success.